The most important thing you can do is to get involved in the political process and get rid of all these rotten politicians that we have in Washington, D.C. who are nothing more than corporate toadies. This is treason, and we need to start treating them now as traitors.
That was Robert Kennedy Jr. at one of the Live Earth concerts, taking a shot at me and everyone else who doesn't buy into his global warming hysteria. Now, Kennedy continued to beat the global warming drum on Neil Cavuto's show earlier today, falsely claiming that the scientific world is all on the same page.
The science on global warming is settled. 2,500 scientists in the IPCC report, the top meteorologists and climate scientists from around the world have announced the global consensus that global warming exists, that we are causing it, and that its impacts are going to be catastrophic.
Joining us now is the senior fellow from the Competitive Enterprise Institute, Marla Lewis, and senior writer for Chris Magazine, David Roberts. Mr. Roberts, I want to particularly go after his comments, and I thought Neil had a very effective interview and then followed up with a debate with John Stossel earlier today, when he says these corporate toadies, these villainous companies that put their interests ahead of the American interests, this is treason. We need to start treating them like traitors. Is that the type of rhetoric that's how we look at corporate America in his twisted, socialized view of the world?
I don't think his view of the world is socialized, Sean. If you heard earlier in the speech, he was advocating for a free market. He's the biggest free market booster I know.
Oh, well, he's actually not. But, I mean, do you think we should be calling them traitors and saying we should treat corporations like traitors because they have a different view than he does? You don't find that?
I don't think he was calling corporations traitors, Sean. I think he was calling people who deliberately lie to the public traitors. I wouldn't use that word, but I also have no compliments for people who deliberately lie to the public. Let me ask you this. He's
been on this program a number of times. I've interviewed him on radio a number of times. He flies around the world in private jets. He was leaving this program one night to go on a private jet. He drives a big gas-guzzling Caravan. He supports wind farms, but yet he sued to prevent the wind farms from being built outside the Kennedy compound. Now, as I listen to the comments of these people at the Live Earth, they were telling us to walk and ride our bikes and to, use cars that are more fuel efficient. Why should we listen to somebody that pollutes the planet more in a day than most Americans do in a year? Why should we listen to him? What credibility does he have?
The top thing he encouraged and that Al Gore encouraged is for people to get engaged in the political process.
David, should he give up his private jet?
He's done that more than anybody else at that concert.
Should he give up his private jet and lead by example?
I don't care what Robert Kennedy Jr. does in his private life, quite frankly. You'll have to ask him about that. You've had him on.
I know I have, and the fact is he won't take the I won't fly in a private jet pledge, and I don't want to be lectured by people about walking to work and riding a bicycle if they won't give up their Lear jets. Is that fair?
You should try riding a bike, Sean. It's actually quite fun.
I ride a bike for exercise.
Let me get Marlo in here. Marlo, it's Alan, David, it's Alan. Welcome back to the show. Look. Some of you on the right would like to make this about Al Gore or about Kennedy or make it personal to them and totally ignore the science that is out there about global warming. Instead, you want to make it personal to Gore, personal to Kennedy. Isn't the real issue the bigger message about what each of us can do to make this a better planet in the long run? Isn't that what we should be focused on?
Well, Alan, I agree with you. The big question here is whether our children and our grandchildren will inherit a world that's energy rich or energy poor. And I think if we put people like Al Gore in charge, and especially if we put Robert Kennedy in charge of energy policy,
they're just messengers. They're not in charge.
This world is going to be put on an energy diet when much of the world is already energy starved.
Let me ask you this.
So that is the issue right here.
Hold on just a second. The Pentagon, just a few years ago, warned President Bush that global warming is a national security threat, that climate change could lead to anarchy and warfare as a way of life. Was the Pentagon lying?
Did you read the report, Alan? I read that report.
Was the Pentagon lying?
I read that report. Well, look. Alan, warfare is too important to be left to the generals. So is climatology.
Is the Pentagon lying?
They're not experts in this subject. They bought hook, line, and sinker what some environmentalists wrote about this, and they said, well, let's assume that's true.
David Roberts, you want to
let's assume the world is coming to an end. Does that pose a national security threat?
That's what the Pentagon said. David, what do you say?
It's not the environmentalists that fooled the generals, Alan. It's the scientists that fooled the generals. It's the scientists that fooled every major scientific body in the world. I mean, this you guys got to get a new set of talking points over there at CEI. I think.
Hey,
the whole
we don't
CO2,
operate from anybody's talking points, pal. You're the guys who operate with a
David, finish what you're saying, please.
You know, what Marlowe's paymasters want is not a free market. It's the status quo.
All right,
because they profit from the status quo. There's more than enough energy falling on the planet.
We got to run, guys. Appreciate it.
And
it's time for Gore and Kennedy to give up their Learjets before they lecture us about walking to work. And coming up, after 4 years, the feds believe they have answers to the pizza bomber mystery. Geraldo Rivera, Mark Furman, they'll join us next with analysis. Plus,